Love and Thunder is directed by Taika Waititi and stars Chris Hemsworth, Natalie Portman, Christian Bale, and a bunch of others. Thor's retirement is interrupted by a galactic killer known as Gore the God Butcher, who seeks the extinction of all gods. To combat the threat, he enlists the help of King Valkyrie, Korg, and his ex-girlfriend Jane Foster, who, to Thor's surprise, inexplicably wields his magical hammer Mjolnir as the mighty Thor. So, Thor, Love and Thunder. Here's the thing. We always have this argument, right, about how much control a studio has versus how much control a director has over showing their vision. And with Marvel especially, we know there's a formula. And look, we're 20 something, 24, 25, I've lost count, movies deep into this thing. So something is working with that formula. We have to say that. But at the same time, we wouldn't have movies like the Guardians of the Galaxy if, say, the studios were to stifle James Gunn, and his vision. And of course, we would not have had Thor Ragnarok. Taika Waititi did an amazing job of taking Thor, one of the Marvel characters who was kind of background dressing, even though he had his own films, and launching him into the stratosphere. Not everybody, but most people were like, oh, this is my favorite Marvel superhero. And Chris Hemsworth, his charisma, all of that come together, made that movie. Flaws and all, Ragnarok was a fantastic jump ahead for Thor as a hero. So, of course, I think what happened here is Marvel gave Waititi a lot more freedom to do his thing. Now, I'm a huge Taika Waititi fan. I love everything this man does. But even I am going to find it a bit difficult to defend some of the stuff that went down in Love and Thunder. I am not even going to try in some places, but let's get into it. And I'll start with the good stuff. I always like to start with the good stuff. And the best aspect, the hugest praise I could give to this film is the cinematography. This movie looks amazing. I was able to see it in IMAX in all its glory, and wow, every single scene blew me away. Even smaller scenes like New Asgard taking place on Earth, it still had those elements there that you wanted to pause and just look at everything that was going on. The Shadow Realm, holy crap, they do this cool monochromatic thing there. Think of that as Gore's Realm. That is a character played by Christian Bale. And it's a whole black and white thing, but there's a battle sequence, and every time one of the Thors or anybody hits him, there's a splash of color thrown in. It really looks amazing. And of course, there's, I hope I'm saying this correctly, Omnipotent City, where all the gods hang out. The world building here is really good. It's better than it was. Ragnarok kind of took place in a couple of locations. We got so much more here, and I appreciated it. It was comic book world building at its finest, and you really got a sense of what the magical or more fantastical side of the Marvel universe looked like. I felt like they did a much better version here than Sam Raimi did with Multiverse of Madness, where I find that went a bit too fast. I mean, we had that had that very cool sequence, but at the same time, I mean, Everything Everywhere All at Once did it better. So yeah, this movie, the world building is really solid. The costume designs, I love the costumes for both Thors, for Valkyrie. I really dug the costume. I could see a lot of people wanting to cosplay as these characters, Another element that I quite liked was the introduction of Gore. Well, I like the introduction. I'll get into that a little bit more. Christian Bale is a man, he's never lazy, he never phones it in, and he doesn't do that here. He was a solid addition to the MCU as a villain. I kind of feel like they keep killing off these villains and they need to stop doing that, because you have actors of this caliber bringing this kind of gravitas to these roles that normally people would say, oh, it's a ridiculous comic book movie. You have people like Christian Bale killing it. I mean, you know, Michael P. Jordan, of course, Josh Brolin as Thanos. You keep killing these people off. What are you going to be left with? But I guess that's a whole other conversation. So he brings it. He looks good. He nails the emotional aspect of the role. He's definitely one of those villains that you're gonna sympathize with his plight. And I have no issues with him as this character. But I'll get into some con stuff with Gore the Butcher as we move along. And another thing I really quite liked here was how short this movie was. I think this might have been the shortest Marvel movie I've ever seen. I think it comes in under 2 hours, guys. And there's definitely no fat here. I don't know if that's to the detriment of this movie or not. There are parts of this film that felt a bit rushed to me. But, you know, I kind of appreciated not having to sit there for 3 hours. So, you know, I don't know where exactly most people will fall when it comes to the runtime of this film. But for me, I didn't have an issue with the runtime. What I did have an issue with was how that runtime was utilized. So, I'm still in the good stuff. Let's talk about Jane Foster. Natalie Portman is back as Jane Foster, aka the Mighty Thor. This is a comic book run. This is a story run that I really enjoyed. I don't read a lot of Thor. I tend to look for the really good stuff and focus on that. So I don't continuously read the issues, but I did follow this story. And I felt like they definitely nailed most of it. They really did. She brought that sense of what Jane Foster was going through. She definitely, you could tell Natalie Portman was in it to win it this rounds, you know. She and Chris Hemsworth still have that natural chemistry. Here, I don't feel like it was played up enough, but they definitely still have that chemistry. It was nice to see them act off each other like that. And you could tell she was having a blast with the role. She looked good in the role. I was amazed at how many iconic shots we got from the Gore the Butcher run and the Mighty Thor run, where Jane Foster is the Mighty Thor. I appreciated that. I'm sure people who've read the comics know what I'm talking about. There was some shot-for-shot scenes in this that I was like, hey, they did it. They actually, you know, they reenacted that scene and they brought it to life and it looked amazing. And I loved it. Russell Crowe as Zeus, I mean, I think you should take it early. I was a little surprised. I thought he would have been a little fitter, you know, not knocking the dude. But I thought they were going to go for a different Zeus look. But you know what? The whole element, the whole thing about this movie, that with these gods being the vain, selfish, egotistical, narcissistic gods that they are, I think that's why the Russell Crowe version of Zeus works as well as it does, you know, because these gods are all selfish. I mean, think Thor from the first Thor film, you know, they don't care about anybody, and he has grown a lot. And so we see those elements here and why a character like Gore the Butcher could kind of be validated in what he was doing. So guys, that's the stuff that worked for me. I felt like those elements were fun. They came across well. Like I said, the cinematography, all of that worked well. These actors, I mean, all in all, the actors involved do a wonderful job. Even Tessa Thompson, she doesn't have as much screen time here as Valkyrie, but what she does very well. So yeah, I have no issues with any of that, guys. Now we get to the part where I get disappointed, and honestly, I felt like the main problem here was Taika Waititi going a little too Taika Waititi on all of this. Like I said, guys, I am not kidding. I'm a huge fan of this man going ways back. Since he worked with Jim and Clement, I've been a fan. But that said, I feel like maybe they needed a little more balance here with Waititi's sense of humor, and Marvel maybe needed to control a little bit more of what was happening. This feels like this is like 80% YTT, 20% studio, and maybe that's too much Taika for Marvel. The humor, some of it works, most of it doesn't. The thing with the goats, listen guys, I love goats. I call them nature's comedians. They always make me laugh, but there's only so much of that screaming before it gets annoying. I felt like, now in Ragnarok, I also had an issue with Ragnarok not giving us time to sit in the emotional stuff. You know, we would have these deep emotional moments, and then we would just very quickly go to another scene. And I'm sure I'm not the only one who had an issue with that. This one, the emotional stuff is here, and for the most part, because of the actors, it's done pretty sincerely. We do get to sit in it a bit longer, but there's a hollowness to it. I can't really describe it. You know, it feels like, maybe it almost feels like Taika, he knows the movie needs it. We need to see why Thor is so in love with this woman. So all the gaps between the first three films, all the stuff we've never seen with them, it's filled in here. It's filled in quite nicely. It's actually one of the better scenes in the movie. But the emotional stuff here, it still doesn't resonate as much as I wanted it to, because there's too much comedy. Then we have Gore the Butcher. Again, Christian Bale nailing this thing, but the ending of this movie feels so anticlimactic, and we don't spend enough time with the character. So what ends up happening is you don't really see how a guy like this could be such a threat. I think what we really needed was a scene of Gore just annihilating gods across the universe. We needed that montage, because other than that, he's just looking like this decrepit guy in a robe, you know. And without, I mean, there's a scene where he is kind of menacing these Asgardian kids, and that scene is, you know, you get a sense of how this guy is kind of off up here and how creepy and sinister he could be. More of that would have helped make this character feel like more of a threat for somebody like Thor. There was no time in this movie where I felt like this guy was a real threat. And then when we come to that ending, it worked better in the comics, I guess. I don't know. It just felt like, you know, felt like they were rushing to just end it and get to the next scene. So that, like I said, I'm not blaming the actor. It's not the actor. It's the way that whole thing was written and how this character was displayed, not portrayed, but displayed to us. We needed to spend more time with this character for him to work. So overall, guys, Love and Thunder, it's not a bad film. It could never be a bad film, really, when you think about it, because there's just so much that works here. You know, the cinematics. Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention the music did not work for me this time around. I think it was just too much of it, too much Guns N' Roses. So I'm sorry to Guns N' Roses fans out there, but it was just one after the other, and it just, I think it was too much, or maybe it was in the wrong places. But that said, guys, this movie, it's not that I didn't enjoy it, but like Doctor Strange in Multiverse of Madness, I felt like there was a lot of misses and not enough hits. It's been a while since I've seen a Marvel movie that has truly, truly impressed me, and maybe it's because I'm a bit burnt out on the whole thing. But then again, I'm really looking forward to Black Adam, because it's setting off all the right sensors in me, and I'm getting the feeling that that is going to be an awesome movie. This, on the other hand, it's a little bit above average, so I'm giving it a 6.5 out of 10. I did come out thinking 7, but the more I think about it, the more I'm thinking Love and Thunder. There's just too much here that it feels a bit cringe to me. And that's going to be it for this one, guys. So I hope you enjoyed it. And if you've seen this movie, maybe you think it's amazing, please tell me why. I might look at it with fresh eyes. If you think it was just god awful, tell me why too, because I don't think it was that bad, you know. I just don't think it was as good as some of the previous Marvel films I've seen. As a Thor movie though, I would rank it, I would tie it with Ragnarok, honestly. I think even though, maybe even put it a little bit ahead of Ragnarok, just for the fact that the emotional stuff, at least they paid attention to that stuff, and also the fact that the world building here is better than it was in Ragnarok. Ragnarok, they stayed way too long on one planet, you know. We should have seen more of the universe. But yeah, this is going to take a couple multiple viewings for me to really see where I finally fall on it. If you like this video, please feel free to hit that thumbs up button, guys. It's always appreciated. If you're new and you'd like to subscribe to my channel, then feel free to click on my face when it pops up right about there, I think. And you can check out past videos, past Marvel DC reviews right along this way if you've got the time. So until the next one, guys. Bye-bye.